Someone commented on my custom shop versus Squier shootout video asking about this, so let me just explain the whole thing. So I solved the problem with a single EQ block at the beginning of the signal chain. It would be best to think of this EQ block as a part of the guitar rather than a part of the rest of the rig. In fact, Nigel Hendroff's implementation of this is a separate EQ pedal he has on stage, separate from his whole rig. He's got this crazy MIDI thing, everything's in the back in the rack, but that one EQ pedal is on the floor that his guitar plugs into that before anything else. And he said it was so that if he switches guitars, he could fix it so it would sound right. But since I use a Kemper now, let me show you how I implemented this on the Kemper. Right here, Studio Equalizer, and you see that little lock emblem? It stays on the first block on every single patch, no matter what rig or performance or slot I go to, that stays the same. In fact, I'll even show you on the rig because I love this so much. So just imagine that I have these going. If that's off, if I hold the lock, it'll tell me what's locked. You see how that A button lit up? That's telling me that that's locked in place. And no matter where I go, my Studio Equalizer will be there waiting for me. And if I have it on and go to the next rig, it'll stay there. Stay there. It will not turn off. And if I turn it off, it will stay there. Stay off. So I don't have to think about it for if I'm going to use my Strat that day, I don't have to sit and reprogram every single slot of every single performance. I just lock that baby in there and I don't have to think about it again until I put my Strat down. Going back to a normal preset for me on the HX Stomp, there's something similar to the lock feature. If I come to the EQ block and if I toggle Snapshot bypass, see there's no check mark? With the check mark, if I go from one snapshot to the other, it will remember if that block was on or off when I saved the preset. But if I uncheck it, now if I go to crunch, it stays on. If I go to lead, it stays on. So if I turn this off, because I have my Les Paul, and I turned Snapshot bypass on by mistake, and I go to crunch, oh no, it was on last time, so it just turns on. On all these EQ blocks that are really more about the guitar than about the rest of the rig, leave Snapshot bypass off because I'm not really changing guitars without knowing it to be able to hit that button. But back to the Kemper, let's see what settings I ended up with on the Kemper. So when I did this, I would have used my Strat Dark as a starting point. In fact, I think this, yes, this is named Strat Dark. No low cut, low frequency is 125 Hertz. I'm giving it 2 decibels instead of 3. Steep low, I don't know what that means. It probably means that the curve I told you about is steep. I don't even know if I knew that existed when I did this, but it's working, so I'm not messing with it now. I guess steep low is something you have in place of a Q. See, for mid 1 and mid 2, I can control the Q, which would make that curve flat or steep. You just have a toggle for steep low or steep high. But I'm bumping 500 Hertz, 2.5 decibels. I'm not bumping any other mids. Yeah, so it's really just 2. I have the low and I have mid 1, and there is no high gain, there is no mid gain. I don't have a high cut on. I'm given a +1 on volume. That's not measured in decibels, so I guess I just seasoned that to taste. 100% mix. I don't know why you would want, I guess maybe you might want in some cases a mix. This Kemper is so amazing. The different parameters, the things you can do, it's way more complicated than what I use it for, but it's just amazing that it does all this ducking. So I can set this where if I hit my guitar really hard, then the EQ will matter less. That's really cool. You can do a reverse ducking. Look at that. So that means if I have a light touch, it'll thicken up. And if I hit it hard, I won't need to. Actually, I might revisit this and use this because on the neck pickup, it'll be like I'm hitting it harder because the signal will be higher and I won't need as much of this EQ. I love the Kemper so much. So here's a look at that EQ block on the unit. Low gain 2 decibels, low frequency 125 Hertz. Not doing anything with the high. Mid gain 1 is 2.5 decibels, frequency of 500 Hertz. Not doing anything with mid gain 2, not doing anything with low cut or high cut, but I'm giving it +1 volume. I actually hardly do anything on the Kemper with the computer. The computer editor is not bad. It's not awesome. It's maybe not quite as good as Line 6's software stuff, but does it even need to be there? I can just do anything I need to do on the Kemper, on the face of the Kemper. It's the perfect user interface. I made a video about that. I will never stop loving the Kemper user interface. Another thing you could do different on the Kemper, that was a studio EQ. You could use what they call a graphic EQ. Much simpler, just certain bands. My version of this would be, 3 decibels on 125 hertz, 3 decibels on 500 hertz, 3 decibels on 2000 hertz. Now, this is just mimicking my Strat Dark as it exists in the Line 6 world. I guess if I was going to make this closer to the studio EQ that I did on the Kemper, I wouldn't bother with that 2000 hertz. It would just be these two. Let me show you a great A/B testing workflow that you can use to dial in tones, and it will work with any multi-effects unit, or even if you just have a looper on your board, it will work. Now this is a recreation of what I would do with an HX Stomp and an HX Effects. I'm actually cheating. This is HELIX native, but we're gonna do it anyway because you'll get the gist.